Many other places, the earthquakes were so intense that in many places where the earth was mostly clay, it liquefied and acted like a sea of mud, swallowing whole cities, just on the Lemurian mainland, but on many the planet. Another thing that came after that, as the continent itself went down, were so large that sometimes they went not just hundreds, but 1,000 miles inland. The equivalent of a tidal wave starting on the coast of California and completely taking out Oklahoma City. Tidal waves like that run rampant as well as the earthquakes. In many cases, and in some areas, the shaking never quit. There would be a constant swarm of, if not large ones, then small quakes. The hierarchies, the councils of this planet, understood this was going to happen. So they tried to construct both cities prior to the destruction of Lemuria itself, understanding that the Atlanteans would not get a lot of construction done under those circumstances. Also, at the same time, the Great Pyramid in Egypt was constructed underneath the tutelage of the Lemurian high priest, better known as Thoth. And the Atlantean record chambers, which were geared to hold not only Atlantis' records, but Lemuria's, Pan's, Og's, Hyperborea, all of the other cultures that have existed and reached high levels upon this planet. The Atlanteans moved into their city at just about the same time Lemuria sunk, moving in first their priesthood, their greatest scientists, some of their greatest thinkers, to try and preserve their lives against the coming cataclysms. Atlantis itself started shaking at the same time Lemuria was going down. And Atlantis continued to shake and lose parts of its land for 200 years before it too finally went completely down. For almost 2,000 years after the Atlantean and Lemurian catastrophes, the planet was still shaking. To lose two huge land masses within 200 years of each other, plus the planet was still witnessing the effects of the thermonuclear weapons that had been used in the Atlantean-Lemurian wars. Plus the fact that so much debris had been thrown into the atmosphere that it never became quite bright daylight for almost 300 years after Atlantis' destruction. This caused many, many life forms, plant forms, to go extinct. Plants that were common in Atlantean times, common in Lemurian times, that no longer exist because they simply couldn't survive the long stages of filtered sunlight. Some have survived, yes, many animals and plants. The human condition in those civilizations that survived it, Egypt, Peru, Rama, better known as India, In many places, people became so frightened by the constant earth activity that civilization, even in the last bastillions, started deteriorating very, very fast. One question I have heard again and again is, well, if Atlantis and Lemuria existed, how come there's not more evidence on the surface of that? That is why. Most of the cities were shook to rubble. Those that were not shook to rubble were wiped out by the earthquakes, or wiped out by the tidal waves. Even those who survived even the tidal waves, even the earthquakes, hunger was rampant, disease was rampant. Some areas of civilization, like those future named Egypt and such, did survive. They even kept their civilization intact. But even they started losing the highest elements of their civilization. Many, many machines quit working because of the filtered sunlight. Many, many people moved from the cities. They started feeling that living in a city was a death trap, because you never knew when a building was going to fall on you. What would look like a very strong building, have it go through 300-400 earthquakes, it's a goner. Some buildings were built to withstand it. The Great Pyramid withstood the earthquakes, but it was built with sacred geometries. Other buildings like that throughout the planet survived, but most of the cities were completely reduced to rubble. In many areas, they rebuilt the cities. But even then, each time the cities were rebuilt, it was on a slightly less, should I say, technology. Each city was a little more primitive than the city before it. The Atlanteans moved into their city, which was built underneath the Mato Grosso plateau in what is now Brazil, which had been Atlantean territories at that time. I mean, getting an understanding of what was happening on the surface, you can perhaps understand how the Lemurians and Atlanteans would prefer to be living underground. During this time, there was an integration more and more with the Agartha network. As I explained earlier, Agartha is a confederation of several subterranean cities. As a matter of fact, there's over 120 of them. Some of them that were built in the very early times, such as Shambhala the Lesser, which is peopled with beings from Hyperborea. These are 12-foot tall beings. Being as man on this planet, as on many other planets in this solar system, was originally of a height of about 12 feet. When we lost the mantle and started reaching more and more rays from the planet, or rays from the sun to the planet that we were not used to coping with, it caused change within our bodies. Already, by the time Lemuria and Atlantis sunk, man had gone from 12 feet to 7 feet. Thus the Atlanteans and Lemurians were around 7 feet, and still are.